The Los Angeles Rams are all in as you can be for the 2026 season at trading for reigning Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett from the Cleveland Browns, what it means for the San Francisco 49ers chances in 2026 and beyond on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers, a little emergency podcast. Brian Peacock solo with you today. Eric Crocker is at football practice, but I got to get this podcast in, breaking down the massive blockbuster trade that went down today between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cleveland Browns. I want to get your thoughts in it in a live chat here as we go live on a Monday afternoon. This is one that I thought that Myles Garrett could be traded, and I did not suspect that it would happen today or that it would be the Los Angeles Rams, although I think we should know that anytime there's a blockbuster move that happens, there's a good chance it happens in the NFC West, and a good chance that one of the most active teams and one of the most brash teams out there from the top down is the Los Angeles Rams, that would have the opportunity to make a move like this, and what a move it is. And so let's lay it out first. I'm sure everyone watching and listening to this podcast knows by now what happened with the big blockbuster NFL trade that went down on Monday, June 1st, that saw Myles Garrett on his way to the Cleveland Browns. Here are the official terms, according to the Browns' official social media platform. The Los Angeles Rams receive reigning Defensive Player of the Year and sackmaster Myles Garrett, 23 sacks last year, more than the San Francisco 49ers team that had 20 combined. And it's a serious package that the Rams sent for Myles Garrett here. On the way to the Cleveland Browns from the Los Angeles Rams is young star defensive end Jared Verse, first-round pick just a couple of years ago, a 2027 first-round pick, a 2028 second-round pick, and a 2029 third-round draft choice. So 4 players potentially, depending on what the Browns do with those picks. Maybe they package picks and move up and move around, and maybe they move down and even add more picks from the haul of picks that the Rams sent the Browns. But this is a huge trade, and obviously it changes the tides in the NFC when the best non-quarterback, in my opinion, I think the most valuable non-quarterback in the NFL right now currently is Myles Garrett. And now he was on your way to your division if you're the San Francisco 49ers to the Los Angeles Rams, who, by the way, you think they want to have a home game at Super Bowl 61 that is at SoFi Stadium? Do you think maybe some motivation from ownership even to get a deal like this done, from ownership of the Rams, from the Les Snead, the general manager, and Sean McVay? Obviously, they have an aging star quarterback who's the MVP, first time ever. An MVP and a Defensive Player of the Year reigning get together on a new football team here in the following season. So clearly they know that they have a window right now. The Rams are going to attack it. And do you think the Rams want to not have the fate that the 49ers had last year in watching a team, especially a team in their own division that is not them, win a Super Bowl in their stadium? No, the Rams are doing everything they can to have a home game in Super Bowl 61 at SoFi Stadium, now adding Myles Garrett to the mix with an already very good roster that I think was one of the best, if not the best rosters in the NFL coming into the 2026 season, makes them even stronger. So, how good does this make the Rams first before, and I want to talk about the Browns side of this trade as well, because it's fascinating. And I think the Browns did well. I think this is a win-win trade for the Rams and the Browns, and the Rams gave up quite a bit. Did they give up enough for Myles Garrett? And then we'll talk about what this means for the San Francisco 49ers, where the Niners are at in their Super Bowl chase. And if this obliterates the 49ers' chances potentially in 2026. And I think we got to look with any trade. I know we're looking at right now and looking at 2026, but you got to look at beyond. What are the ripple effects down the road for the Rams, for the 49ers, for the Browns, which is really important when you make a big trade like this, especially for the Browns, who are going to go quarterback hunting, I have a feeling, here in the 2027 offseason. So obviously this makes the Rams just an unbelievable football team in 2026. As I mentioned, they were one of the best teams already. Now they have the reigning MVP at quarterback, Matthew Stafford from 2025. He also led the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns. He is still throwing to the NFL leader in receptions in Puka Nacua last year, and the NFL leader in receiving touchdowns, which was the other receiver in Devontae Adams in 2025. And now they add the sack leader, the sack record holder, 23 sacks last year at the height of his powers, the best non-quarterback in the entire NFL, Myles Garrett, now added to that defensive line. The big question here for the Rams, and this clearly makes them better in 2026. They added Trent McDuffie as well, trading one of their extra first-round picks. Their biggest weakness was probably the defensive secondary. They have addressed that quite a few times in the 2026 offseason, including the big trade for Trent McDuffie, but they are not done. They added Myles Garrett now to the defensive line. Is the difference between Jared Verse is a really good football player, first of all. Is the difference between Jared Verse and Myles Garrett worth a first, a second, and a third round pick, and the money that you have to pay Myles Garrett more than Jared Verse right now? I think the money thing ends up being somewhat of a wash. Jared Verse is going to earn a huge contract in a couple of years, and so you already know you're going to have to pay a big contract. You're paying it now instead of further down the road. You have the Super Bowl window open now with the star quarterback. I think that move kind of makes sense. And so I don't think the money is that big of a factor in all of this right now. And the Browns hope that Jared Verse is the type of player that they have to give a big contract to in the next couple of years. And I think that's probably what's going to end up happening. That first round pick could potentially be the number 32 pick in the draft. You know, the Browns are talking about this pick internally when they're deciding whether or not to make this trade. They are counting on this pick being late in the first round next year, the 2027 first round pick. But the Browns have work to do and need to get themselves a quarterback. And so for the Rams side of this, I get it. One of the big factors, I think, for me when I first saw this trade and thinking about the 49ers part of it is, were the 49ers involved? The 49ers, I feel like, had to make a call. I think Tom Pelissero reported that maybe that the Rams were maybe the only team that was in on this trade. I find it really hard to believe that the best defensive player in the league is available in trade and no other teams had called about it and talked to the Browns about it. So I'm not buying that at all. And potentially I think the 49ers could have been one of those teams. I do want to talk in a minute here about what the 49ers could have done. Could they have even swung this trade? Would it have made any sense for the 49ers? One of the reasons the 49ers can't make a deal like this, they haven't drafted anybody that's as valuable recently as Jared Verse to put into a trade package like this. Mykel Williams, not even close to the value right now. Could he become that? Maybe. But he's not nearly as valuable around the league as Jared Verse would be in trade. Nobody else from last year's class. Nobody from the class before. You know, there's a vacuum of missing first-round picks from the Trey Lance move. They traded a bunch of picks for Christian McCaffrey, some of those on day 2 of the draft that could have been potentially a star player. You know, the last player that the 49ers drafted that could be even close to the value of Jared Verse was all the way back in 2018 in Fred Warner. And right now, today, Jared Verse is worth even more than Fred Warner. Heck, Jared Verse has more value, A, because of his contract, and B, because of the injuries to Nick Bosa's knee, now his third ACL, and the fact that he's not healed yet and ready to go. I think Jared Verse, I saw a lot of people, I asked, you know, could the 49ers have made this deal? It's like, yeah, okay. Nick Bosa. Okay, well, you include Nick Bosa and a first. I think the Browns take Verse over Bosa. At his best, Bosa is a better football player than Jared Verse. But right now, he's coming off a torn ACL. His third torn ACL. So I think that would absolutely be a factor. So the 49ers don't have a comparable player value-wise they could have sent in a package to the Browns that would match the value of Jared Verse, including, I think, Nick Bosa because of his injury. So I don't even think that this would have been a possibility for the 49ers unless you're just talking about straight-up draft picks to make up for that difference, and then maybe some other players involved as well. And I just don't think it would have made sense for the 49ers. So in a lot of ways, the Rams had drafted the Rams drafted well enough to have a player that they could even allow them to make this move. So that's, I think, number one when you're looking at the 49ers side of things and how this trade turned out. And if I'm the 49ers, I'm making offers for Myles Garrett, right? But I think in the end, they were going to always come up short once Jared Verse was involved. And apparently the Browns said, it's got to be Jared Verse. So if the 49ers called Andrew Berry talking about Myles Garrett, what would have been the ask? I can't imagine what the ask would have been, because I think it would have had to be more than Bosa and a first to make up for what the Rams just sent to the Browns. Even though Bosa is the better player when healthy, right now he just happens to not be. So I don't think the 49ers were in position to be able to make this trade as it turned out, unless they were just throwing a bunch of draft picks and a package of players that probably would have, in the end, not been that great for the 49ers, even though it would have made them a lot better potentially right now. And if Bosa's included, how much better would that have made them? You're throwing in multiple first-round picks? I think you just got to roll with Bosa and hope he's healthy. He's the only path for the 49ers. Next, I want to talk about how good the Browns are, how good the Rams are, if this makes sense for both sides, and where the 49ers are, where they are at their Super Bowl window now after this trade. And I want to get into the chat a little bit about this wild afternoon of trade action in the NFL. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill, it's still sitting open. I've seen it before. I'm sure many people listening, watching this episode have been there as well at their places of business. Maybe you are the hiring manager, and when the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs, because Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching, more time interviewing candidates who actually check all your boxes with Indeed Sponsored Job. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this show. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. I actually really like this move for the Cleveland Browns because they got a young, ascending, star caliber player. Now, let's not get it twisted. Jared Verse isn't at the level of Myles Garrett. He's not at the level of Nick Bosa yet as a pass rusher. He's a really good young player. Could he get to those heights? Right now he's not in that tier of player, but a really good player and a really valuable piece on a rookie contract that you're able to trade. So, better for the salary cap now, and the Browns hope that they have a chance to be forced to pay Jared Verse a whole lot of money in the next couple of years, which I think will end up happening. But you need to fix your quarterback position first. And that's really the key for the Browns. And it's why I thought Myles Garrett, it made sense to trade him this offseason. Probably made a lot of sense to trade Myles Garrett last offseason, even though they didn't. Would the 49ers have been involved there? I don't know. But the Browns get Verse, a first, a second, and a third. The big key here is, and even if it's a very late, even if it's the 32nd pick in the first round next year, the Browns have multiple first round picks now. They've got to get the quarterback. So if Myles Garrett gets the Browns to the path of actually, for the first time in any of our lifetimes, practically, I don't know who the oldest person is listening to this show right now. Did the Browns have a good quarterback in your lifetime? Let me know at BD Peacock or in the YouTube comments. If this gets the Browns that, then it is a win for the Cleveland Browns. And now they have more ammo to do that in a class that looks like it could be a really good draft class at the quarterback position in 2027. So that's clearly the plan for the Browns, and it should be the plan for the Browns. And so you kind of have to make this move if you value Jared Verse that much and you're able to get this package of picks and players and an extra draft pick in a draft that everybody wants draft picks in right now in the 2027 class. So I like it for the Rams. It's a lot to give up. I like it for the Browns. I think they got a good amount. Now, will they botch the quarterback pick? Probably. And the Browns will still stink. But that's another, that just because that process is screwed up for the Browns doesn't mean that, you're grading the process, not the results. The process is sound for them, because even with the defensive player of the year, as good as Myles Garrett was last year, the Browns were a 5-win football team. They've got to fix the quarterback once and for all. They have the ammo to go do that. And what's best for them is they lose a whole bunch of games this year and could just go get that number 1 pick. And then they just got an extra first-round pick, and they don't have to trade up. But they have ammo now, and they can drop multiple picks on a team to go up and try to get their quarterback if they need to make a move in that draft. And it's something you just have to do if you're the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go into the chat a little bit here, and I do want to talk about the 49ers Super Bowl window. Anthony says, why can't we have nice things, Peacock? Look, this was just a perfect storm for the Rams to be able to stick the knife in the ribs of the 49ers and twist it a little bit. Croc and I on yesterday's podcast just talked about how Kyle Shanahan's legacy is tied up with Sean McVay and Mike McDaniel now in the division. These are two really good football teams. The NFC West is the best division in football. We'll see if the Cardinals can join the party at some point. Probably not this year. And both of those younger head coaches both have Super Bowls, and Kyle Shanahan does not. And so, right or wrong, Kyle Shanahan's legacy is going to be defined by if he can go defeat those teams and go win. But you got to get through your own division first, and you got to beat Mike McDonald and Sean McVay's teams twice a year right now. And maybe 3 times a year, as we saw last year with the Seahawks. And we've seen it before with the Rams, playing them in the playoffs as well. And the Rams are the best team in football on paper right now. MVP caliber quarterback, best defensive player in the league. You've got multiple playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. You're good across the board. There's not a position that you're really super worried about. And guess what? If they have a problem, you think they're worried about trading something to go fix that problem at the trade deadline or during training camp? No, I don't think so. So, awesome football team, really good roster, and they're built for the short term right now. So in the short term, the Rams, who are already up at the top, are the best team in the NFL. This is a huge swing, and Myles Garrett makes a big difference, I think, even going from Verse to Garrett. I think there's enough of a difference. Like, that is a crazy difference-making player to add to your football team that's already really good. And they were very close last year. It was the NFC Championship game with the Rams and the Seahawks was the Super Bowl last year. They beat the Seahawks, they win the Super Bowl. They walk all over just like the Seahawks did. Whoever was going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. That's just the way it was going to be. The Seahawks are still really good. Rams got better. Seahawks got a little bit worse, but not that much worse. The 49ers are the 3rd best team in the NFC West. I think they are. And I think the 49ers, health permitting, are a really good team and better than last year. And who knows, maybe they're the 3rd best team in the entire NFC, but they're still 3rd in the NFC West right now. So this move hurts the 49ers' chances of winning a Super Bowl in 2026. But this trade also hurts the Rams' chances to win in the future. Whenever the post-Stafford, post-Myles Garrett, and maybe here's another thing. We know that Stafford's not going to be around for a long time. Who knows? Maybe this is Stafford's last year. Is that a package deal with Sean McVay? Sean McVay was considering leaving the Rams a couple of years ago with Aaron Donald. Is he going to leave with Stafford now instead? Could they go win a Super Bowl and they both leave? McVay goes and does TV for a couple of years before he decides to take on another job when there's the right, perfect job, after decimating the future draft picks and ability to add talent for the Rams. I think the Rams have enough young talent where they wouldn't fall off the map. But I don't think Ty Simpson scares anybody at quarterback. If in 2028, there's no Matthew Stafford, you're nearing the end of the Myles Garrett contract. He's in his, he's what, 30? He's only 30 right now still. but he would be, 32, 33 years old at that point? Could the Rams be not that good and not that scary? Yeah, and who knows? Maybe Sean McVay's not even there either. But where would the 49ers roster be at that point? Because the 49ers are kind of built for right now. You're old in a lot of places. In fact, you're kind of older in more places than the Rams are right now. Left tackle, not quarterback, thankfully, for the 49ers. We'll get to that in a second. You're old at running back at 30 with the carries that is on Christian McCaffrey. You've got to be honest about what that is and the reality of that in the NFL. You've got, you're old at tight end, coming off an Achilles. Nick Bosa coming off his third ACL. Fred Warner, 30-year-old season now. He'll be turning 30. And actually, will he be 29 all year? I don't know, 29 or 30 for Fred Warner. Coming off an injury. I think Fred Warner's going to be really good. He'll probably be good for a little while, but athleticism could wane into your 30s. You know, I don't think the 49ers or the Rams are set to be awesome in 2028 or 2029 right now. So do the 49ers feel urgency now to try to play catch up? Or are they set? Are they good enough to go defeat the Rams and the Seahawks in 2026? I want to talk next about the 49ers Super Bowl window and what that means, and get a little bit more into the chat as well. And finish up this emergency pod. The Los Angeles Rams have made a massive trade for Myles Garrett. And did the 49ers Super Bowl window just slam shut? Coming up. This episode of Locked On 49ers is presented by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are here. Every possession matters when you're talking about the Spurs versus the Knicks tipping off on Wednesday. So if you're looking to get even closer to the action, FanDuel has a great offer to get you started. Right now, new customers of FanDuel can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet wins. That's right. Turn $5 into $150 in bonus bets just for getting started. I love FanDuel during the playoffs because everything you need is right there in one place. You can check stats, trends, and matchups before making your picks, which makes the whole experience feel a lot more informed. And you want to be informed before you're making your picks. So whether you're looking at player props, which are even more fun, I think, than betting on the games, just following your favorite stars adds another level of excitement to NBA playoffs and every game in any sport. And it's a really easy app to navigate. It makes playoff basketball even more engaging from start to finish. And you can bet on the Rams or the 49ers to knock off those Rams and win the Super Bowl in their house in Super Bowl 61. Tons of NFL props for the 2026 season as well. So head over to FanDuel.com to get started. FanDuel, play your game. Let's talk Super Bowl window. Clearly, the Rams are in a Super Bowl window right now, and they're trying to attack that as hard as you can. And I commend them for it. I mean, this is... If you're a Rams fan, you are geeked. Anybody out there, I'm sure you know some Rams fans, even though, there's still not that many. I know a lot more Dodgers fans than I know Rams fans, like by tenfold. Pretty crazy. If the Dodgers made a move like this, I heard from people when they went and got Ohtani. By the way, some similarities. I know let's talk baseball for about 30 seconds here. A lot of Giants fans are mad about the spending that the Dodgers do and everything. The Dodgers have put themselves in a position to be able to attract stars to their team. Obviously, they have the money to spend on those stars, but they also have they've built a farm system with the prospects to go trade for Mookie Betts, to go make deals and make their team better, right? And I think we're seeing this with the Myles Garrett trade with the Rams. And I think this is what you see with the 49ers, who have had some weird drafts, especially with those early picks in recent history. And the Trey Lance stuff. And this is where it starts to show that it hurts you beyond the field, because now you don't even have the ammo to go make a trade. The Browns could have called John Lynch and said, hey, the Rams made a really good offer. Can you beat it? And the 49ers are like, dude, we don't have a Jared Verse that we can trade you. We can't even compete with that, right? So that's where the 49ers are right now. And it's an unfortunate place to be, that your division rival can just go load up like this against you. And the 49ers, I think, probably feel like they've already loaded up. And I know they have a lot of cap space, but that's moving That's moving deck chairs around. Like that's getting rolled over. And they have money that they can add a player. And I'm sure the 49ers are going to add a player. Maybe it's Joey Bosa, right? It's no Myles Garrett, but they can make a trade at the deadline. Maybe they can make an even bigger blockbuster move, depending on what happens this offseason and into the early part of the season. So the 49ers aren't done yet. And the 49ers, I think, are a very good football team that can compete. But I've always said that the biggest factor for the Super Bowl window is coach and quarterback. And I do believe the 49ers will have their coach and quarterback for longer than the Rams will. And that means the 49ers Super Bowl window is going to be open. But they've got to, some things have to go right, and they have to make some big moves for players who are going to be really good in the post-Stafford era of the NFC West to really be like, okay, this is our Super Bowl window. And I think that is a possibility. But as far as like 2023 was the pinnacle, that was the year. And the 49ers, overtime in the Super Bowl, came as close as you can come to winning a Super Bowl and not win it. They fell short. That was like, if you want to talk true Super Bowl windows, that was it. But the 49ers can still win as long as they got coach and quarterback, which they have. So the 49ers are going to be okay. They're just not the best football team in the NFL right now. And they're not the best football team in their division. And they probably aren't the second best football team in their division right now. The NFC is stacked and is going to be fun to watch in 2026. The 49ers are going to be competitive if they can stay healthy, though. And it's been the key, and it is going to continue to be the key for the 49ers. But they have to replace some of their aging stars. They do. And every draft class is important for the 49ers. They need to hit, and it doesn't have to be their first-round pick. You know, they can pluck another future Hall of Famer in the 5th round like they did with George Kittle in 2017, or like they did in 2018 in the 3rd round with Fred Warner. But they got to find some of those types of dudes to restock. Like they need a new young foundational core. Let's bring back to baseball one more time. I got a baseball hat on right now. I got my slow pitch softball season starting tonight. So I'm recording a little bit earlier here. Couldn't wait for Croc. I hated the way the 49ers roster, or the San Francisco Giants roster, was managed at the end of the Barry Bonds era. You have the biggest cheat code in baseball history. And you can't build a team around that guy. And you're so bad at the end of the Bonds era that you're losing so many games that you actually you're trying to compete, but you accidentally draft so high that you get Tim Lincecum, Buster Posey, Madison Bumgarner. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's the core we needed. Too bad we couldn't have had those guys in the Bonds era. And then that new young core turns into being the foundation that builds 3 World Series champions in 5 years. That's what the 49ers need. They've got old Bonds era football team right now. They need the new foundational young core. They need a Lincecum. They need a Buster Posey. They need a Madison Bumgarner. That's what the 49ers need in the very near future to talk about that Super Bowl window. And then maybe we're talking about Kyle Shanahan winning 3 Super Bowls in 5 years. Who knows? Into the chat a little bit here. Oh, yeah. Chris is pointing at the draft. Says, we do not draft very good. Just gave up the next 3 firsts and 2 seconds. So that's part of it. It's like the Rams drafted well, not because they had a bunch of first-round picks. The Rams have only spent 1 first-round pick since they drafted Jared Goff in 2016. And that 1 first-round pick was who? Jared Verse. Until they took Ty Simpson this year. Isn't that crazy? The Rams have drafted awesome without having any first-round picks. And then the one time they had a first-round pick, they drafted the best defensive player in the draft. And they hit it. So you got to commend the Rams. They've drafted well. They've drafted really well. I think it's the difference right now. I think you look at all the hits that the Seahawks have had recently. Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? They built themselves a pretty good football team. And they've had some outside help. They've had some trades. They've had some free agents. But it's that foundation of the draft and drafting those stars. Browns marching for Arch, says the Newt. Yeah, I mean, does Arch Manning report for duty if the Browns draft him? I mean, if there's any prospect that might say, you know what, I'm going to have a say over where I'm going to go, and the Browns and the Jets aren't where I'm going to go, that could start to get very, very interesting. His uncle did it, right? The Newt also says Kyle won't let the old guys go, though. You know, I was thinking about this, and look, this isn't to rag on the 49ers because the Rams went and did a thing and the Niners didn't do it. You know, that, like, look, this wasn't a deal for the 49ers to make right now. I think the 49ers could have made this deal last offseason. I think the Browns should have been willing to trade, and I think that number 11 pick in the draft could have gone to Cleveland last year, right? It ended up being Mykel Williams. I think that was the path. Myles Garrett wanted out, and I don't know what the heck the Browns sold to Garrett to get him to sign that deal. Should have happened last year. Maybe we could have had Bosa and Garrett together on the San Francisco 49ers. And then you figure out some other things. But I thought about this with the old guys that Kyle won't let go. Like, the tail is wagging the dog a little bit. You see these, you see Bosa hold out, and Brandon Ayuk holds out, and Christian McCaffrey holds out, and Trent Williams holds out every other year, it feels like, right? And they all end up getting their money from the 49ers. Like, they're kind of swinging the 49ers around a little bit because the Niners are not willing to let any of these guys go. And they're not willing to strike while the iron is hot and trade a guy either and get some pieces back on the opposite end of that. But I was thinking, like, do you think that Bill Walsh or Bill Belichick, two of the best ever, would have done this dance with Trent Williams for so long? I think there's a 0% chance. I think Bill Walsh is in charge. Trent Williams was gone 2 contracts ago. Bill Belichick was involved. Trent Williams is gone 2 contracts ago, right? 38 years old. And Trent Williams can still play. This is not an anti-Trent Williams take. But you're building around a 38-year-old left tackle that keeps asking for more and more and more and more money. It's not a sustainable way to build your football team. And you're hoping that this old, aging, slowing, getting worse core is the one you can still win with. This isn't 2023. And I think the 49ers do need to take a hard look, but they haven't drafted those replacements for those guys either. Who do you lean on if you don't have those guys? And so that's the way Kyle's looking at this thing. Like, so you bring in Mike Evans, who's, again, another future Hall of Famer, fits right in with that group. I think the 49ers can win with those guys. They're just not as good as the Rams are right now. Filberto says, it's not like the Rams didn't have old guys when they won. Whitworth was like 40. That's true. They went all in. They had some old guys, and then they traded a bunch of guys away, and then it fell apart, and then they rebuilt it with young guys again. And obviously Stafford was a big part of that. But again, even more important than Myles Garrett is Stafford McVay. Again, every franchise in the entire NFL for eternity, your Super Bowl window is how good your coach and quarterback marriage is. 49ers have a good one. Rams have an even better one, I think, if you're being honest. The Browns have never had one, right? That's why the Browns have to trade Myles Garrett so they can go get that, because that's more important. Because Myles Garrett, best defensive player on the planet, still gets you to 5 wins. Let's see. Let's go to a couple more here. Joel says, need to trade our older talent while they still have value. Front office is too attached to these players. Yeah, I don't know that you necessarily would trade. To be honest with you, I don't think you build the thing out of the running backs. I think Christian McCaffrey is a player that this offseason would have been the perfect time to trade him, because 30 years old, if a team's willing to give you a bunch for him, I just don't know what you can expect he's going to be going forward. And Kyle Shanahan has proven, and every other Shanahan and Kubiak have proven, that this run game can run the ball well with other players. You're not going to have as good of a receiving running back. You're definitely not. But if you're just playing that stock that is the player and when to sell, when to buy, I think this offseason selling Christian McCaffrey is probably the right time to do that. I think moving on from potentially Trent Williams It's probably around that time, right? But you got to replace them because you don't want to just become a bad football team. And as was mentioned, there's some old players on the Rams. There's old players on winning football teams. So you don't want to get worse just because you're old, right? You don't want to get just younger. You want to get better while you're getting younger. That's the key. And you would have to be on board, coach, GM, ownership, and put together a plan. And the 49ers are not willing to do that. And the players know that, and their agents know that because they're like, you're not willing to, my guy's too good. You're not willing to give him up. So guess what? We're going to hold out and we're going to make more money because we know you are going to give it to us. I know this one stings. I see that in the chat right now. Here we go. The Last Hero says, I think I know why Myles Garrett selected the Rams. It's because his Olympian girlfriend, Chloe Kim, is an LA native with her family living there, and SoFi Stadium is where they met. Interesting little angle there. I did not know that about the private life of Myles Garrett and Chloe Kim, and that's where they met at SoFi Stadium. I'm sure that's part of it. And obviously, Myles Garrett had to okay any trade. Would he have, if the Rams didn't offer and the Niners did, would he have said no to the 49ers? I don't think so. I think he would have been down with that too. But I think this is probably a real nice landing spot for everybody involved, for the Browns to get what they were asking, to get a star young defensive player and the draft picks to go hunt quarterbacks in the next draft, for Myles Garrett to go front run with a team and gives him the best chance to win a Super Bowl right now with the MVP quarterback and a great coach and a talented football team in a city like LA, where his girlfriend just happens to be from. So perfect for Myles Garrett. Perfect fit for the Los Angeles Rams. The Rams got better. Let me know what you think about this trade at BD Peacock. Hit up Croc at Coach Crocky on Twitter. In the YouTube comments, little Winky Wednesday action tomorrow. I know we're going to talk a lot more about this and other angles involved with this move with Myles Garrett, and really shocking the NFL world with the Rams making this blockbuster trade for Myles Garrett. Make sure you are subscribed to Locked On 49ers. Check out the Everydayer Club. Get involved in the Discord chats as well as ad-free episodes of this show. Just go to lockedon49ers.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes. Croc and I back tomorrow right here. Locked On 49ers.